Hello, everyone, and welcome to Snap Take. This is Glazer of Snap Judgments, and today we have something special for you. Marvel Snap dropped 4 new cards on us. That's right, it's not just Hydra Stomper Day, it is Hydra Stomper and Friends Day. Hydra Stomper is not the only card that came out. We've got 3 new Series 4 cards that came out in celebration of Snap Packs. If you're not sure what they are, if you're not sure what decks they go in, we're going to cover that later this video. We're covering every new card that came to Marvel Snap today. But first, let's talk about the Series 5 card, Hydra Stomper, the one we knew was coming. Hydra Stomper is a 3/2 ongoing +1 power for each card you move this game. If you play just a Sam Wilson on 2 and then play Hydra Stomper at any point in the game, because remember it's an ongoing, Hydra Stomper is a 3/6, which means it's very easy with at least just a couple of extra moves to get this to be a very, very strong card. Let's say you snap a Hydra Bob and you play a Spider Man, you now have a 3/8. That's really, really good stats for a card. If you play something like Heimdall, if you play any move cards, this goes way over the top. Silk seems to be this card's best friend. It is very hard for me to imagine a card with this level of stats not becoming a meta card. Sometimes I think we overcomplicate Marvel Snap analysis. We look at cards in a lot of different ways for a lot of different synergies. Sometimes it's just how many points does it put on the board for its cost. Hydra Stomper puts out more points than its cost almost always, unless it's hit with like an Enchantress. It should be a very powerful and consistent Marvel Snap card. It's one I think that is going to be worth getting. However, as always, we will be reviewing this card multiple times this week to ensure that once it comes out, it isn't a letdown. However, there is one situation in which you should get Hydra Stomper right away, almost certainly. If you do not own Madam Web and Aranya, or Madam Web or Aranya, and you have not yet updated your game to the new Snap Pack system, if you have not downloaded and updated that patch, you can use Spotlights today. If you have the 4 keys, you can use the last Spotlights ever. They're giving you 2 days before you have to update, before the update is forced. So use Spotlight keys, get these 3 cards at a better rate than the new Snap Pack system would give you. Once you have these new cards, you can then update to the new system and use your tokens or to get the new Series 4 cards as you choose. That is what I strongly suggest you do. Madam Web and Aranya are 2 absolutely amazing cards to be in the last spotlight. They go in the same decks. They're also going to go in a lot of Hydra Stomper decks. However, the first deck we're going to talk about is not, in fact, a deck that runs Madam Web or Aranya. Just in case that you updated the game, just in case you're playing Hydra Stomper without these cards, we've got another deck for you. And you're looking at this going, well, there's not even Hydra Stomper here. That's fair. That's because we took our friend Safety Blade's deck and we updated it to be a Hydra Stomper list, fundamentally adding Silk and Craven and Hydra Stomper to the list as a way to get more power. This looks an awful lot like an old Silky Smooth deck to me, Silky Smooth being a about 2-year-old deck now that was absolutely dominant around 2 Augusts ago as one of the best decks in the game. I think that Hydra Stomper should be absolutely amazing in this shell. You've got the Sam Wilson alone to get it to the 6, right? Silk can move 3 or 4 times in a game. Hell, Silk can move 3 or 4 times in a turn, making this potentially huge. But then you also have backup extra move from Jeff and Rocket and Groot, and now you're really, really singing with this list. You should be able to get Hydra Stomper to basically always at least a 3/6, and sometimes you're going to get it to like a 3/12, 3/13. That seems very worth running in this deck to me. I'm very excited to try this shell in particular. I also like that Silk moves around. That makes it easier for me to get my Captain Carter in the front. This one seems quite good. You can find the creator of this deck at twitch.tv/safetyblade. You need Sam Wilson and Galacta for this list. Obviously, if you don't have Hydra Stomper, you can run it. There is a version of this pre-Hydra Stomper. You can run Luna or Elsa. Obviously, you're cutting Silk at that point too. If you don't have Jeff, you're running Nightcrawler. Gwenpool can be Kahori or Captain Marvel. Red Guardian can be Shadow King. Rocket and Groot can be Nocturne. We are trying to make sure we have a core number of movers on the list, hence the Nocturne and Nightcrawler changes. So let's go through things and what this deck is trying to do. First of all, Kitty Pryde is here largely for Hope Summers. Kitty and Hope Summers are an amazing, amazing pair of cards together. Getting extra energy is important because you want to make sure you can play out as much as you can. Kitty is also an amazing Galacta target. If you have any way to get extra energy, or even if you end up playing Gwenpool on 4 and Galacta on 5, you can play Galacta with Kitty on turn 5, and now you just have this big extra thing to do on turn 6. Sam Wilson is here largely as a way to buff Hydra Stomper. He's also just a 2/7, which is very good stats. That's about as big as a 2 gets. Sam Wilson also works very, very well with Craven. Being able to move the shield into the Craven lane is another powerful play. Jeff is a card that can get on and off Hope Summers. It's movable power with Galacta or Gwenpool, and it can trigger Craven, while also giving an extra power to Hydra Stomper. Half the deck buffs Craven. We're looking at Sam Wilson, Jeff, Silk, um, and Rocket and Groot are potential Craven buffs, with the shield and Silk being able to buff Craven multiple times. Silk is your Hydra Stomper best friend. These cards are going to go together amazingly well. We'll have another way that they go together later on this video because one of the new cards really, really goes insanely well with that. But for the time being, you play Silk, you play 2 cards on Silk on a turn, you've got +2 power to Hydra Stomper, and probably, honestly, +2 to Craven. That seems crazy strong. Captain Carter is meant to be played late in this list. You want to play her after a Galacta or a Gwenpool almost always. You can play her as a 3/2. She's a fine buff that way, but it's probably not worth your time. What you can afford to play her late because you have so many movers in order to get her to the spot in the board you want her to. Hydra Stomper again should be a 3/6 almost every game, which is really great. Rocket and Groot helps control where your opponent plays. You can use it to make sure they have to play on Silk, for example, to buff your Hydra Stomper and Craven. You can use it to move to buff your Craven yourself. Red Guardian is your one control card. I just like having one control card. It could be like Miles Morales. It could be like 50 cards here. I just think it's important to have one control card because there's a lot of cheap, powerful stuff in the meta, whether it be Captain Carter, whether it be Scream, whether it be Strange Supreme, whether it be Goliath. Hope Summers gives you enough energy to do all these things, and Galactic Gwent will give you enough power to make, when the draws aren't right, and make you able to win the game. Safety had a really high win rate with the older version of this, and I think this is a serious power up for this list. Let's go turn by turn. First, turn 1 Kitty, turn 2 Sam is better than Craven, is better than Silk, is better than Jeff. That is the order I would play those cards in. Sam is priority. If I know that I'm going to be playing my Stomper later, I might move Silk up in the order above Craven to make sure I have a time to get her out, because every move when she's out is really good. Turn 3 is generally speaking Hope. Over a 2, I'll happily play a Craven after Sam, or a Silk if I know I have Stomper after Sam, over Rocket and Groot, over Carter. I really want to save Carter for later. Turn 4 is Galacta, often a snap condition. However, if I know my turn, I didn't play Hope, and now I know my turn 5 is going to be Galactic and Kitty, I will play Gwenpool first. So Galacta over Gwenpool. White means snap condition, over 2/2. Turn 5 is Carter +2, generally speaking. And then turn 6 is Stomper and Red Guardian, or Stomper and a 2+ Kitty. That's it. That's how you play this list. It is a thing of beauty. I'm very excited for the return of Silky Smooth. Hopefully, another deck we're going to talk about doesn't push this out of the meta, because I think this one does offer an awful lot of power. Before we go further, please hit that sub, like, and comment. Your sub will help the channel out as we're trying to hit 25,000 subs in 2025. But also, if you sub, like, and leave a specific comment, question to be asked later in this video, you will be entered to win a season pass. Every video this week has a season pass on it, and the video earlier today, in and of itself, someone who comments on that specific video will get a season pass. Whether that be Captain Carter or the new one is entirely up to you. Hey, I just sort of explained that. All right. Next up, we've got Batroc the Leaper. Batroc the Leaper is one of the most amusing Marvel characters. He is a very cool French fighter, villain of Captain America, who's often fairly flamboyant and fun. He is when a card moves, follow it to gain +2 power once per turn. So once per turn, this is going to hopefully gain a power. When a card moves, not your card moves, when a card moves, this is going to follow it to get +2 power. Of course, it's going to have to actually move to that location in order to gain the power, but once per turn, if it does that, you should be fine. This seems like a fairly easy 1/6 to 1/8. Yes, I would like a 1/6 to 1/8 in my decks almost always. All right, so Den put this deck together with Hydra Bob in that 1-drop slot. I took one look at this and went, no, this is Batroc's deck. This is Batroc's deck now because I've got Silk, I've got Scream, so I'm moving opponent cards, right, which is good enough for Batroc, but whenever Batroc moves, he's also buffing Hydra Stomper, which means my opponent moves now are also benefiting my Hydra Stomper. Yeah, because Hydra Stomper only triggers when I move my own cards, right? But if Batroc moves, now my own cards are moving. So, let's say I Stegron off one of their cards, Batroc's going to leap over to the new location that card is, assuming there's space, gaining 2 power, and giving Hydra Stomper 1 power. And if I'm lucky, I've got Craven in that lane. This also obviously works amazingly with Sam's shield. Every time I move that shield, Batroc is jumping and gaining power. Scream is just a +4 scaler, so she's incredible. Spider-Man triggers both Batroc and Hydra Stomper all by himself. Everything about this is so freaking good. It would shock me if this isn't one of the best decks around right now. This one seems absolutely amazing to me. You can find Den of Marvel Snap Zone at www.marvelsnapzone.com. He has fundamentally given up on social media, but he writes a million articles on Marvel Snap Zone, including some of the best written tier lists in the game. This deck needs both Scream and Sam. Cannonball can be Heimdall. Stomper can be Red Guardian, Rocket, but make Silk be an Iron Patriot at that point. And Batroc can be Bob or Kingpin. I do think you want Batroc for this list. A +2 scaler for a 1-drop is crazy strong. We've seen it before with cards like Kitty Pryde. Like, start to run Killmonger, friends, because this card seems really strong. Okay, so Batroc moves with Sam Wilson Shield, Spider-Man, Silk, sorry, not Hydra Stomper, Polaris, Stegron, Cannonball, and Arrow. Every time it moves, it buffs Hydra Stomper. If you can, and it shouldn't be too hard, you can often land it on your Craven and get at least an extra 4 power out of it that way. It's very easy for me to imagine. If you play this on 1, there is a chance you move a card every other turn thanks to Sam Wilson. Odds are eventually you're going to end up clogged, but caveat, that is turn uh 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That is plus 10 power. That is a 112. That's the same power, and I know you have to look at it fairly clearly, that you get for playing Strange Supreme on 2 and feeding him every turn. This card seems wild to me. Almost as wild as Scream, where if you get a move every turn after Scream, you end up with a 217. Scream is in danger of Red Guardian now because of her 1 power. You do want to play her on Sam Shield to try and be careful, but outside of that, she is an amazingly powerful card, one of the best scalers in the game. She doesn't trigger off everything in the deck, but she triggers off Spider-Man, she triggers off Polaris, she triggers off Stegron, and she triggers off Arrow. That's a reasonable amount of stuff to trigger Scream. Sam Wilson moves Batroc, has a shield that can move on Craven, and all the moves buff Hydra Stomper. Yes, please. Craven, we've talked about. Craven also benefits from everything we talked about already, but also Spider-Man can land on him, Silk can land on him multiple times, Polaris and Stegron can put things on him, as can Arrow or Cannonball. Huge. Spidey is a mover and it disrupts your opponent's play patterns and it's awesome. Silk moves multiple times a turn. It is amazing for Hydra Stomper. Probably not as good for Batroc unless you have Sam Shield out, but that's fine. You will take that huge. As long as you get one of these cards stupidly huge, you're pretty far ahead. This was already one of the best cards decks in the game, and I think this just is major upgrades. Polaris works for Scream, Polaris, Batroc, everything else. So does Stegron. They're the same idea. They also give you access to a sort of mini clog package that move really feasts on. Once you've clogged one location, Cannonball feels like a game winner. Everything moves in this in this list. So Miles is a 1/6, which means since you don't have a 6, you're very often going to play Miles and a 5 on the last turn of the game. Cannonball is your last turn game winner, and Arrow is just fairly big and can help you clog a lane while also triggering all the stuff. Turn 1 Batroc, turn 2 Scream equals Sam. Batroc might be a snap condition, but we need to play him first. Uh, so if you don't have Polaris, you play Sam over Scream because you can go Sam into Craven. Silk is more or less equal to Craven if you don't have Scream or Sam. It's going to depend what you have in hand. If you have like a Polaris to pull onto a Craven immediately, you can play Craven first. If you have a Stomper already, you can drop Silk. Turn 3 Polaris if Scream or Craven, or you play another 2. Turn 4 is a 2/2 or Stegron. Turn 5, Stegron on Miles, or Arrow, or you can play 3, and that's Stomper's turn +2. Because the last turn you really want to be Cannonball and Miles, but you can also do Stomper plus other stuff, like Stomper plus Spider-Man is perfectly fine. Stomper, Spider-Man, Miles. You're going to be a pretty happy camper. I don't know. Scream already had the best scaler in the game, and now Craven becomes an even better scaler, and Batroc is a scaler, and Hydra Stomper is a scaler. That is, actually, Sam is a scaler. So Batroc, Scream, Sam, Craven, and Hydra Stomper. The deck that has the best scaler in the game just now has 5 scalers in it, along with the clog package, along with Cannonball, who's just one of the best cards in the game. Chef's kiss to this list. Props to Den for coming up with it. I think this is going to absolutely wreck face. Like, genuinely, I could not be more excited about this list. But we're not even close to done. We still have a ridiculously cool and original deck, and a deck from the #1 player in the game. Before we get to that, though, please check out tonight at 8 p.m. I'm going to be testing these decks and so many more, opening snap packs, taking your questions. Twitch.tv/PulseGlazer. Make sure you are there. And our season pass question to enter to win the season pass is very simply: which of these cards are you most excited for? Topaz is the next card to talk about, and this is the clunkiest. This is most likely to be a bad card. Cool? Everyone clear? Of all the cards we're going to talk about, this is the one that is most likely to not be very good. It is a card that makes it challenging to play your cards in a specific location. After you play a card here, move it to the middle location. Once your middle is full, however, you should be fine. This card obviously is going to move at least a few of your cards, potentially up to 3, into the middle location. Sorry, potentially up to 4 into the middle location. That means it works with Hydra Stomper. It also costs 3. And now we're cooking. Roram has had a move surfer list for a little while that he's had a lot of success with. I changed a few cards. I took out Ghost Spider and added Topaz. I took out Red Guardian and added Hydra Stomper. And now, oh boy. So we now have an extra scaler in this list, and we have an extra way to basically auto-trigger Vulture and Redwing upon play, in addition to Aranya. I don't have to do any extra work. All I have to do is play Topaz, then play those cards. I've now got a 3/9. I've also got another 3/9 because of Strong Guy. I've now got, and I've triggered that bonus for Hydra Stomper. If I can get a Madam Web in that location, we're really cooking. We're really cooking. If I drop a Red Wing there, I've now got a free card, which makes my Strong Guy more likely to go off. Um, I can get my Galacta early. I can put Madam Web in the middle, and everything I move to the middle goes crazy. Once I've filled the middle, I can do whatever the hell I want in that lane. I've got Surfer to buff 3/4 of the deck. Let's go. This one seems so hype. You can find the creator of this list at twitch.tv/RoramPlays, the most underrated streamer and deck builder in the game. Also, congrats on graduation, friend. This deck needs Madam Web, Redwing, and Galacta. Now, Makari can be Wasp, and you're going, what? Why? You need a way to get cards out of hand. You can try like a Blade there or something, but then you're going to like end up blading on turn 5. It's a little rough. Sage and Stomper can be Gambit, Red Guardian, or Gladiator. Those are your working changes. Aranya and Topaz can be Ghost Spider and Iron Fist. You need cheap movers if you don't get Topaz. But this list works either way. It's really solid. Also, remember, if you bought that Red Wing bundle in a few, whatever patch they update it, you will get the Red Wing base, which is just the coolest change they made today, at least in my opinion. All right, so Aranya is here because she's a mover you can play early and forget. You don't want to play her middle. Be careful to try and keep middle free because of Topaz, but you can just play Aranya, and then whenever later in the game you want, you have this extra mover. Um, if you don't see Topaz, this is going to be very important, but if you do see Topaz, it's totally fine. Don't be afraid to do this on Brood. It won't buff the Brood, but it does give you more space to play with on Brood Lane. Madam Web is here largely for Redwing and Vulture. If you can put her in the middle and you can use Topaz to throw a card into her, you're now really, really cooking. You've got that now 15 power Vulture. You've now got Redwing, it doesn't actually matter for. But you've got that 15 power Vulture. You could just cold drop Redwing on her wherever she is. When you move Redwing, you get the extra card. Ideally, you only have one card left in hand at the end of the game. Ideally, that card is Surfer. You're buffing your Hydra Stomper and Strong Guy while buffing your whole board with Surfer. Sage is a nice scaler. There's a lot of different points of power in this list. Aranya is a 2 that's going to give something +1. Madam Web is a 2/1. You've got Brood, which is a 2. Hydra Stomper, which who the hell knows? You're always playing it before Surface, so it doesn't matter. Strong Guy's a 3/9. Vulture's around a 3/9, but they're probably not in the same location. You've got a 4 from Topaz and Makari. We'll get there. And then you've got a 5 from Redwing. That's a lot. And Galactic, you've got a lot of different costs. Just a lot of different costs, which makes Sage really, really solid here. Brood is just big with Galacta. It goes in every Surfer deck. It's obvious. It's the one non-synergy piece here. Hydra Stomper should be relatively big. Topaz gives you free move. Madam Web gives you move. Aranya gives you move. If it's not big enough, it can go. I think that it's fairly likely that Hydra Stomper is worse in this list than Topaz is, but I'm curious enough to see if I am getting enough moves that this is still worth it. Silver Surfer and a Silver Surfer deck buffs the whole board. Strong Guy is a 3/9 because you have Makari and you have Redwing to get cards out of your hand. It should be relatively simple. Vulture is a very powerful mover, one move, and it is top-notch power for a 3-drop. You play it with Surfer, you got a 3/11. That seems like a good rate to me. Makari is amazing. It can not only land in the Topaz lane, it is also just very good power for completely free. Topaz played on the mid or right, sorry, on the left or right, will basically fill up a location for you. Makari and Brood allow you to get into that location even if you haven't managed to fill anything. Plus, all of her moves, even if you're not moving Vulture or Redwing, which benefit from it, all of her moves benefit Hydra Stomper. Again, if you can move 4 cards on her over the course of a game, you've got a 3/6 Hydra Stomper, which means any Madam Web or Aranya shenanigans are pushing this well over the top. Redwing gives you a free card, and then Galacta is the biggest regular buff giver in the game. So turn 1, Aranya. Turn 2, you want Web mid over Aranya over Stomper. Turn 4, you want Vulture if move, Stomper or Topaz. So if you can move Vulture, if you've got Madam Web or Aranya, you're going to play Vulture now. If you've got Stomper, you can play Stomper, but you really would prefer Topaz. Strong Guy is a fine play. Turn 4, Galacta is better than the 3. Turn 5, you want Stomper or Sage and Madam Web or Aranya. You can still play Aranya this turn, just fine. So, and then turn 6, move Redwing and play Surfer. Enjoy your cubes. Chef's kiss. This list is very cool. I don't know how else to put it. Like, move Surfer, friends. Let's make Marvel Snap fun again. If you're interested in seeing some gameplay from these decks and you're not around during the time I'm streaming, please do check out the stream team, The Great Prashant. Oh, nope, that was a few hours ago. You can't check out Prashant today, but you can check out Our Friend Gaming Flash tomorrow from 9 to 10 p.m. Eastern. Make sure you check it out, please. Our final card of the day, and the final card we're going to talk about, is Fan Fei. Activate, move your other cards here to the right. So my concern with her is that she's an activate. Activate on 4 is a little bit clunky. If Scarlet Spider taught me one thing, is that even powerful cards, when they're that late activate, can make your life very, very difficult. So Scarlet Spider might or might not be amazing. However, sorry, Fan Fei might or might not be amazing. However, she is very good stats at a 4/7 and seems like she's amazing in a move deck. And this is like a pure move deck card, which means I went to the Move Master, the person who's been #1 on the Infinite Leaderboard 7 seasons and is either #1 or #2 right now, fighting with Zunes, Sizer. We've got Sizer's mover, and what he did, which genuinely shocked me, was cut Ghost Spider, it might be Iron Fist instead, for Fan Fei, saying, if I can just shove everything to the right from one lane with a Craven in hand, you can do that. And then Heimdall, you are so big, nothing can match you. Let's frickin' go. You can find Sizer at twitch.tv/Sizer2654. He's probably streaming as you watch this. This deck needs Madam Web. Aranya can be Ghost Spider. Alioth can be Juggernaut. Fan Fei can be a mover or Stomper. All right. Aranya, Iron Fist, Madam Web, Fan Fei, Heimdall, and Cloak are your movers. Your general goal on turn 5 is to get either Cloak or use Fan Fei to push a bunch of your movers into the right location. Cool? Once you have stuff in the right location, you are choosing between Alioth and Heimdall in order to mess with them. The Cloak play or the Fan Fei play give you an amazingly big Craven, because if you can do 2 big moves on Craven with 3 cards on him, the first time he's going to get 6 power, the second time he's going to get 6 power. That's a 2/15. That's a lot. Dagger is obviously very good with this if you know where your opponents are playing cards. This is not on reveal, which is really nice because this is a very Cosmo heavy meta. Let's keep going. Turn 1, Aranya. Turn 2, Web over Torch double move. Torch double move means Aranya and Iron Fist/Ghost Spider, whichever you prefer. On that turn 2, remember you want to keep the right lane as clean as possible. You can also play Craven, and Craven is more or less equal to Fist for Vulture. Depends what else you have. If you have Fan Fei, I'd probably drop Fist for Vulture. If not, I'd probably drop Craven. Turn 3, Vulture moved, or just drop him on Web. Cosmo's also fine. Turn 4, Fan Fei on whatever movers you've played so far, or you can just play your next move card. Turn 5 is Cloak on the right, and either Cosmo, Dagger, or Vulture, whichever one you need to get out. Then turn 6 is either Alioth or Heimdall. Don't feel like you have to move everything onto Cloak and you'll be fine. There is enough power in this list to win an awful lot of games. It's one of the best decks in the game. I love it. I think Fan Fei really is a power up. I'm not 1,000% sure. No one can be yet exactly where she fits, but oh boy, does she fit. 4/7 is really nice stats for this list. Very good. And that's our list for today. Let's do our question of the day and head out of here. First, Strangerson says, actually, I don't remember if this was Strangerson. I might have the wrong person. I hope it was Strangerson. In your tier list, you said C tier cards are good. That means, according to your list, 16 out of 116 are bad and 100 out of 116 are good. How can you justify that? Surely many of the cards within that category in the bottom half is snap cards. Series 3 and below isn't that bad. Series 3 and below is, in fact, that bad. So the important thing to remember about Series 4 and 5 cards is that they're trying to sell them to you. While they're not always power creep, right? They're almost always doing something interesting and different. And interesting and different means that they are a meta shift from being good. They are one card coming out, they are one slight change from being meta and powerful cards. That means that they are technically good cards. They are cards that you can run in your deck without being embarrassed. Maybe good is too strong a word. Um, but they are almost exclusively better than the Series 1 through 3 cards you get, specifically because of the card acquisition model that Marvel Snap has chosen. The stuff they make you give them money for is, generally speaking, better than the stuff they give you for free. Not always, but it is worth remembering that almost always the pay stuff is better than the free stuff. That does lead to power creep, but they've done a really good job lately of keeping that in check and making things comparable in power level, at least to other Series 5 cards. But if you look through a lot of the decks in this video, especially the good stuff decks, you're going to see almost all Series 5 cards, which means that, or Series 4 and 5 cards, which means that as more Series 4 and 5 cards come out, slight changes in power level, slight changes in how these cards work together is going to raise their power levels an awful lot. Think the way Hydra Stomper will cause a reevaluation of Silk, the way Batroc is working with Sam Wilson and Silk, and so on. All of these cards, or the way Batroc works again to further buff Scream. All these cards, like let's say Scream was bad, Batroc would almost immediately make Scream far more playable, right? A 112 has a way of doing that. That's the value of these extra cards. Um, Kate Bishop was largely being marginalized. Like she was always very good, but she was mostly a Wiccan card, and she was sort of being marginalized in that role, and she was being pushed out of the meta. They release so maybe she falls down to like a C tier, right? Maybe she falls down. She probably never hit C, but she's the bottom of B, right? She was not a high B. Now she's either an A or a very high B because they released Victoria Hand, and then they released Doctor Strange. These cards synergizing with each other because they are distinct in a way that Series 3 cards aren't, where a lot more cards do similar things, keeps them more likely to be relevant. These are good cards, they're just not good right now. Hopefully that makes sense, everyone. Like Annihilus is a damn good card. Annihilus in a Thanos meta isn't really it, but it was starting to find a home right before Thanos became really good. Thanos takes a hit, all of a sudden, Annihilus is a really good card again, a really meta card again. Hopefully that is an acceptable answer. Let me know what you think in the comments to that one. Certain support on our Patreon come with honor. Thanks. Let's go relatively quickly because it is relatively late. Thank you to Bricks to Click, our patron of the month. Abigail Keeson, Manager Burnett, Erie Carlos, LAB, Inc., I am Frostman, Hota Navidate, Thing, Poker, Prime, Ryan, Ryan Burke, Ryan Wood, Caretix Lee, Quarry, Kazushi, Archangel 3K, Black Dahlia, Perfrost, The Goat Seeker, Code, Hollowed, Only Fox, Synth, Batnick, Absolute Shannon, Nightmare, Dirty Casual, Mr. Kerfuffle, Cables, Ginger Prime, Philip Rakovich, Racco, Haplo, Kenny Loggins of the Danger Zone, Bizza, Black Jeebus 23, XRC, and Skippy G, Rhyming Enemies, Jessica Gamble, Sup Jess, Mr. Slush Death, The King of Rose, Great Kazoo, Werewolf, Kelsey Hoda, Ludacris, Clam, Colonel Forbin, Rob Silverman, M. Holland, David G, Wingfield, Steven, Brian Kaufman, Tristan H. Martin, Jason B, Mr. Craig, Sterry, Matt V, Ren Wrench, Corwin, John Q, and Jimmy McHugh, Q Down, Yes Stout, 8th Sage, One Big Man, Milkman for Reals, Cactus Jack, Reaped Sir, BG, Quid Pro Joe, Snap Decisions Joe, DeCarlo, Models, Mod Supreme, Green, Boombot, Bickety Boombot, Green Goblin, Unibot, Flan 56, Lee, Fizzle Up, Spectrum Mix, Hoot, Ocularis, Sup, Ocu, Matt 8, dealing with we need DJ Mike Hitchings, Don't Frickin' Flex, Nick the Greek Geek, who says he's streaming today, so check it out. Toxic Soul King, Toxie, Zodrex, the King of Canada, Deadman Falcon, Falthorn Newman. He's got a really great video from yesterday. Check it out. Jonesy, Triple Threat was a blast. He played all the F tier cards. It was so fun. Two Ties, the Great Lord as the Pirate King Tucker, and of course Kenny T, where the T stands for. Whew. Tomorrow morning will not be new decks. Tomorrow afternoon will be new decks. Tomorrow morning will be data mines. We got a lot to cover this week. Expect 11 videos. Stick around for the most thorough Marvel Snap coverage. Peace.